Right, back live tonight, you're in Focus. The Department of Home Affairs is upgrading 6 of South Africa's busiest ports of entry in a project with billions of rands. Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says the modernization project will enhance regional economic integration, improve revenue collection, and help to fight illegal migration. The minister joins us now for more on this. Minister, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. I suppose it's another layer in the modernization program. And before you say I missed your media briefing, yes, I did. So I don't know what the details would have been that would have emerged, but I've got you here now, and I'm sure you'll be able to give us more details. But it's another layer, including the capturing of data, including the officers that you've released towards the modernization of our ports. How important is this layer that you are adding now with the private sector?
Good evening, Thabo. Good evening to the viewers and listeners. No, it's very important, Thabo, because the infrastructure at our borders is not for modern times. Remember that the African Union signed and announced with pomp and ceremony the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. But that must be matched by appropriate infrastructure at the borders. And when you look at that infrastructure, it does not exist. You go to the Bombo border post, you'll find a 20-kilometer queue of trucks, bumper to bumper, on the N4, waiting for hours on end to cross into Mozambique because the mining companies have taken a decision. Mining companies in Northwest, Limpopo and Mpumalanga have taken a decision that they are no longer using the Richards Bay Harbour. They want to go to Maputo Harbour. But that decision was supposed to be matched with the relevant and appropriate infrastructure. And that was not the case. So the 6 ports of entry we have chosen, I'm just giving an example of this Libombo between us and Mozambique. But the 6 ports of entry are the busiest between us and our neighbors. And it will be important that they've got modern infrastructure. Secondly, the issue of security on the borders also needs appropriate infrastructure. At the moment, the infrastructure that is there undermines security. And that's why we do have people who find it very easy to come into the country illegally, because they don't find infrastructure there that can make it not possible for them just to enter willy-nilly illegally. They have to go through the normal gates, produce documentation, produce passport, or at least be registered at our borders so that they enter the country. When they enter the country, we know about them. That's what we want to see at our borders now.
I know for government, certainly for the coffers, the economy is much more important to see the trucks moving and not being gridlocked at the borders. But for most South Africans, they would want to know, how does this affect them at the level where they are saying our borders are porous? So is this the kind of infrastructure that you're talking about where at some point people were suggesting that, Minister, you must have drones that go up and down on the border fence every interval, checking if the border fence is still there and whether there are people who are crossing and so on and so forth. That could be then mended by your police that you have, border police that you have sent out there.
No, indeed. You are aware that we have now established a border management authority. That border management authority cannot work without technology. It is going to be supplemented with a lot of technology. But I can say this new project, the development of the 6 busiest ports of entry, will of course add to security, because I told you that these are the busiest ports. But it won't stop the whole of illegality. Remember, our border, the borderline, the land borderline is 4,772 kilometers. Now I'm talking about 6 ports of entry, just at the gates of port of entry. And our ports of entry, land ports of entry, are 53 in number. And we're only, at the moment, we are doing the 6, because they are the busiest. So it is contributing, of course. but not solving the whole problem of people jumping in illegally. We have got to adopt other means. Like the border guards now are only 200. We are busy interviewing to increase them by another 400.
Yeah. What is the sum total of the private partner contribution in this? I heard in some updates saying that it will obviously have to be an equal contribution with whatever government is bringing on board.
No, PPPs are not necessarily like that. Thabo, it's not a partnership, but it's not a partnership in the way of you donating half, I donating half. It's a public-private partnership where we are saying we are giving you an opportunity as a private sector. If you look at the request for proposals, which were released on Sunday papers on the 3rd, that Sunday, 4 days ago, those requests for proposals are saying, you are in the private sector, here is an opportunity, here is a design, tell us what you can do, if we want you to put up this massive infrastructure using your own money, how much will it be? And we'll find a way to reimburse you later. For instance, there are many methods of doing that. The simplest, which I know, because I was there, I observed it, was in 1996 when the N1 was extended between Kranskop in Mudimulile to Polokwane. That was costing 600 million rand in 1996. The state did not have that money. 5 private sector companies, including Murray and Roberts, if I remember very well, where those 5 put the 600 million together, and they constructed that toll road, and they collected fees for 20 years. They managed it, they maintained it, they collected fees for 20 years. If I'm not mistaken, it has just been extended because the 20 years is over. Meaning that here is very good, well-maintained infrastructure for which the state is paying nothing. The private sector is paying for it, but they are able to collect their tolls and make up their money. That's what we mean by PPP.
Right.
The other method is for Treasury to look for money and reimburse them over the next 20 years, just like when you buy a house through a bank and you spend the next 20 years paying. That's another method.
So how are you going to ensure then that, for example, your transformational objectives are brought into this deal? Because sometimes they say when it's like that, private sector money, then the private sector will call the shots and certainly will put a lot of pressure on government for things to be, one, done on time, done within scope, and done with very little corruption. Hence, we are seeing the likes of Bowman's and Ernest and young attorneys coming on board to assist with the transaction.
Yes, they are working under the auspices of Treasury regulations on PPPs. Treasury has got very clear policy on PPPs on how it's done. Regulation 16 of that governs what you are saying about the fact that there must be value for money, the state must not be the loser, and all the risk is transferred to the private company. And the issues of empowerment are inbuilt in those regulations, that if we give, because remember, Thabo, we are giving them an opportunity. They are using their money, but we are giving them an opportunity, which if we do not give, they will not be able to spend their money and get something in return. A number of private companies have got excess money they are not using, Thabo. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
They say they are holding lots of monies. And if you are not making use of your money, so it can't create money for you, what is the use?
Right. And so you're saying all the thresholds as per the PPP regime is set out by Treasury would be met in terms of job creation, in terms of manufacturing or local content, as it is said, and
yes,
so on and so forth.
Yes, those are the conditions, and it's envisaged that this project will create 38,000 jobs just during the construction phase.
38,000 jobs, and all those will be jobs that would come from South Africa. Have we done the assessment of the skills in terms of the specs of the skills and whether we've got enough of those skills? Because then again, you might need to go and consult your list of scarce skills and maybe make some adjustments.
Well, look, the companies will tell us what their needs are, but I'm sure you are aware, Tam, that construction like those, massive construction like the building of stadia and all that, happened before in South Africa. And I don't remember anybody announcing the problem of skills, because we are not asking them to come up with something that maybe is very tricky, like building a power station. This is just building a port of entry, making sure that there are lanes for trucks, there are lanes for taxis, there are lanes for pedestrians, and there are brand new buildings, and the fencing that right there is such that nobody can easily breach it. I don't think it will be difficult for our construction companies in South Africa not to have those type of skills.
Yeah, you've already, as you said, put the advert out requesting companies to certainly bid and submit. How soon do you expect to roll out this program, and where do you see it wrapping up?
The requests for proposals were in the Sunday papers on the 3rd of this month. That is Sunday, 4 days ago, as I said. On the 27th, the interested companies are going to be briefed by all these companies, entities rather, which we have mentioned, because we have got our technical advisors on this project. We are not just doing it alone. We have got Bowman Gilfillians, we have got Ernst & Young, we've got the Development Bank of Southern Africa. They are all going to come together and brief the prospective contractors or the prospective bidders. Then this bid is going to be open until March next year, until the end of March next year, after which the preferred bidders are chosen and they immediately go on the ground to start the construction.
All right. And before we let you go then, Minister, we touched on this last night a little bit, and the Helen Suzman Foundation challenging you once again in court, and you saying, well, you are prepared to fight this matter of the ZEPs to the highest court in the land. Do you think you're going to emerge as a victor at the end of it?
Well, I believe I've got a cause to fight, because I was not joking when I did what I did. It was well thought of, and Thabo, I'm surprised. People go to court in South Africa when they are not satisfied about something. Why can't I? They went to court because they believe they've got a cause to fight. I believe I also have a cause, and I'm going to court. What's wrong with that? Is this constitution or the laws of country coming to serve only one group of people who believe they are the elite, or they believe they own the country because they've got lots of monies? No. Everybody has got the right to have access to the courts, and let the courts decide.
In the meantime, what happens to those who are still carrying ZEPs? Because it seems they are saying that the courts said that at least their rights must remain protected while this matter is still being ventilated in the courts of law. And they're saying, well, that seemingly is not how you are treating those ZEP holders at the moment.
I don't know. How have I treated them since the ruling? How were they treated since the ruling? All that I did was to appeal the judgment. And after appealing the judgment, Helen Suzman Foundation writes a letter and say, I must guarantee that come December, I won't do anything. All I did was to refuse to give that guarantee. Why should I be forced to decide what's going to happen in December? They don't even know when the court is going to sit. During the appeal, they don't know what the court is going to say. So what is the game here? Why can't they wait for the court? Why are they forcing me into a corner and say, I must guarantee them? Who are they to be guaranteed by me?
Yeah. So it's that treatment and that lack of guarantee that they're saying, well, it leaves for example, the permit holders in a precarious position. They can't apply anywhere. They can't secure work because the employer doesn't know what you're going to do in December and what their fate is going to be. And so that puts them at a disadvantage.
Tabo, they are the ones who went to court. It's not me. In Home Affairs, we set up a program of what must happen when the ZEP is not renewed. We agreed that people must apply for exemptions. I am signing hundreds and thousands of exemptions every day. And we set up our timetable. They came and disrupted it by going to court. And now the courts have not yet finalized their work. Why blame me? I'm not the one who went to court. They went to court. And the uncertainty is brought by the fact that we don't know what the court is finally going to say. So why should it be me who gets blamed?
Do we know at this point if there will be another extension?
We have extended to the end of December. The court ruling is that they are extending to the end of June next year. And we are appealing that. So we'll see what the court says. In the same way as they went to the court, I went to the court. So what I heard the story that I hold the Constitution in contempt. I don't know why they believe this Constitution is theirs. It doesn't save any other South African, only them. That's madness.
And at this particular point then, Minister, you are saying the argument that says that the Department of Home Affairs is, for example, not handling the new permit applications or visa applications with the speed that it requires, people are being sent from pillar to post, is not true. You're saying people who are applying for exemptions are being addressed and handled speedily as they should be getting the kind of responses that they need to get.
Tabo, from the beginning of the year, they were not applying for these exemptions because they were encouraged by the likes of Helen Suzman not to apply. I believe so. Even if they didn't tell them straight that do not apply. But the fact that they were telling them that, no, don't worry, we are taking this matter to court, it's going to be thrown out, they were not applying. Remember, I reported that they started applying in May.
Yeah.
And those who applied, we've given them the exemptions. And maybe you should be asking what the exemption is all about. We've given them exemptions. And I'm serious. I'm signing hundreds and thousands of them. As I'm speaking now here in my office, there are lots and lots of boxes which are waiting for my signature. And every single day I sign thousands and thousands of them. But for those who don't apply, what can I do?
Yeah. What does the exemption then guarantee those who get it?
Tabo, we advise that they must apply for one of the 17 visas that exist because at the moment they are on, the ZEP was never meant to be permanent. I want to repeat that. It was never ever meant to be permanent. It was always a stopgap measure. And all we are saying is that it can't be a stopgap measure forever. At some stage, it needs to come to an end. And then we outline how it will come to an end. Now, in terms of the laws of the country, if you apply for a general work visa, you don't come to Home Affairs first. You start with the Department of Employment and Labor. And there you must show, you must prove. And this is not only for ZEP, it's the general law of the country, which is applicable to anybody from any country who applies for a general work visa. The company and yourself must show to the Department of Employment and Labor that there is no single South African who can perform that type of job. That's what it means. Now, we said because they already are performing that job, whether rightly or wrongly, we'll give them an exemption so that they no longer have to go to the Department of Labor to obtain that certificate. You are supposed to get the certificate and then come to Home Affairs. The exemption is to say, please apply for any visa. You don't have to take the route of going to the Department of Employment and Labor and prove that no South African can do that job, because many of them indeed will not be able to prove it. So we give them that exemption so that they apply for a general work visa without having to produce a certificate. That's a very huge concession as far as we are concerned. The second concession is that in terms of the immigration laws, when you change from one visa to the other, you're supposed to go back to your country and apply from there. And we are also giving them an exemption to not to do that. So we believe we have given very fair and generous concessions in this matter.
Minister, appreciate your time as always. Thank you very much for availing yourself and coming to talk to us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's Minister of Home Affairs there, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.